and gentlemen, good evening. My name is Drew Feilmeyer. I serve as the Director of Curriculum for the school district, and it's my pleasure to welcome you this evening to the second of 3 parent information sessions that we're hosting this year. What I believe makes this series special is that each of these sessions focuses specifically on our academic programming. So this is an opportunity for you to learn about what's going on, what's new, and what's going on with regards to our academic programming. Each of you should have received a handout that outlines this evening's program. We'll spend a little bit of time together in the auditorium, and then we'll have 2 breakout sessions for you. So you'll have to select from those breakout sessions, and I'll give you a little more information about that when it's time to do that. This session and the other sessions are sponsored by the Parents as Partners Task Force, which is a newly formed task force this year, where parents and educators are working together to highlight and to work on how we can better communicate what's going on with their educational programming. So if I could ask those of you that serve on the Parents as Partners Task Force just to stand, I just would like to recognize you. Thank you. So to begin this evening's program, we're going to share with you one of our newest initiatives for how we are trying to prepare the students that you put in our care for their future in their world. So it gives me great pleasure to introduce Dr. Chris Adams, our Assistant Superintendent, and soon to be our Superintendent, to deliver the keynote. Dr. Adams.
Thank you. I'm not going to stand behind the podium. I'm better on the move. So thanks for coming out tonight on this brutally cold evening. I think we're on track to have the coldest February on record. So I appreciate everybody taking some time out and braving the cold to come out and listen this evening. I'm really thankful that we've got parents that are like you, that are involved and are demonstrating a growth mindset very much similar to what we expect of the people in our organization. We have fabulous, fabulous people working in the school system. Great leaders, we've got fabulous teachers, and we're going to talk a little bit about something that we're really excited about as we move into the next 3 or 4 years. Drew mentioned the fact that we are embarking on a one-to-one technology initiative. So I'm going to share just a little bit of information with you this evening. We're going to be sharing a whole lot more information as we go through the remainder of the spring and into next year. It will be a phased rollout process, so it's not something that we're going to do all in one fell swoop. And we've had a lot of people that have been working on this for almost 2 years to try and get us to the place where we are right now. And by the way, the slides that I'm showing tonight, we will make sure we get these up on the website for folks, because some of these are easy to read, some maybe not so much. I wanted to start, and I think this is really important, because we are here for our kids. If it's not for the children to walk through the doors of our schools every morning, we're all doing something else. So we are very, very proud to be here and be able to serve the Hempfield school system. We take the work that we do very seriously. And we have a vision, and this is actually an update. It's a little bit, it's tweaked just a little bit compared to what you may have seen before, because just last week the state approved our most recent proposed comprehensive plan. I'll talk a little bit about that as we move forward. But personal growth, achievement, success for every student. That's what we need to be about. And the achievement success piece has been there in the old vision statement. We really didn't monkey with it too much because we really like it. But the personal growth piece we thought was important, because we do have some students that walk through our doors each day that are already achieving at a level, and we want to make sure that even those that are already on grade level are being pushed and being extended, because we want every student that walks through our doors to have a value-added experience. That's important to us. So that's the vision towards which we're working. And given the fact that this community continues to become more and more diverse, There are challenges that are associated with them. We welcome those challenges because we have a really rich school system in a lot of ways. Culturally and with regard to that diversity, we see that as a strength on which we want to capitalize. There are some people that may be wondering, why a one-to-one initiative? Why would we want to do something, put a piece of technology in every student's hands? Well, as that statement up here on the left reads, we have a responsibility and a challenge, and we accept that challenge as a school system to prepare every student for the future that they want and envision for themselves when they leave Hempfield. We have a responsibility to prepare them with the knowledge, the skills, perspective, attitudes, all of those things that are going to allow them not to just go out into the 21st century world and survive, but we want them to thrive. We want them to dream big dreams and be able to accomplish those dreams. And so we see that as our responsibility and the challenge that we readily accept here. One of the things about the 21st century world is the fact that, and I don't have to tell you, I imagine there are probably very few people in here that don't have cell phones. Some of them are probably, or many of them are probably smartphones. You may have tablets in your homes. They're all different kinds of technologies that are not only in your hands, that you take advantage of, likely on a day-to-day basis, almost to the point where it may be transparent to you, but certainly our children are doing it too. And the fact is, the technology is not going to go away. It's only going to become more sophisticated as we move forward. And so we take seriously the responsibility of making sure that students are not only getting core instruction, they're getting the reading and the English language arts pieces and the math and the content area pieces that have traditionally been the realm of schools. But we also want to make sure that they are being taught media literacy skills, how to use different technologies. Not that any one particular technology is one that we want to rely on too heavily because they're going to change. So being adaptable, being flexible is important. There's an organization called the 21st Century Partnership or the Partnership for 21st Century Skills. It's a pretty unique organization. It's made up of educational and business leaders, including folks from Apple, Cisco, Intel, Microsoft, National Education Association is involved. So it's a pretty unique group that's been working since about 2007 to articulate a model for what education needs to look like to ensure that students are prepared for the 21st century. And I'm not going to go into this too much other than to say that where you see the green, that's the core. That's that core content that we normally associate with schools. But around it, you have things such as life and career skills, the ability to be resilient, the ability to be flexible and adaptable and to take responsibility and to be accountable, things that fall in that realm. The top section, and you're going to hear me reference very quickly here shortly, the 4 C's. This is one that we've heard a lot about here in the last 10 years for sure. We're talking about not only do they have to have strong content knowledge, but our children need to be able to communicate. They need to be able to collaborate. They need to be able to think critically, and they need to be able to innovate and be creative. That's one of the hallmarks of this country, is our ability to create and innovate and kind of set the path or create the path, not just follow the path. So this framework builds into it pieces and elements of all of those things. And then on the right-hand side, information media and technology skills. That's something that we also own as a responsibility, is to prepare students to not only work with the different tools and things that emerge, but also to do so ethically and to do so effectively, working in whatever setting they choose to work, whether they go on to post-secondary education, they go into the military, they go right into a career field. Whatever they choose to do when they leave Hempfield, we want them to leave with a very nicely well-rounded set of skills that prepare them to thrive beyond our doors. And this is one of the statements that's made by this P21 organization, and just talk about some of the things that I mentioned. Wanting our kids to be successful when they face that rigorous post-secondary work, if that's what they choose. competitive workforce, especially given the fact that we're not only competing with those people in our county or state, but literally our kids are going to compete with people across the entire globe. We live in a very flat world now. And technology has made that so in a lot of ways. So we want to make sure that they can manage and apply those technologies comfortably and successfully. The 3 R's, reading, writing, arithmetic, that's where that comes from. I love the fact that they recognize that it's not just about English language arts or math, but that they've got the arts noted up there in civics. And that's one of the things we're really proud of here at Hempfield. It was one of the things that was very cool that I greatly appreciated when I came here in 2007 is this school system has a very robust curriculum. We have offerings that it's difficult. If a kid can't find what they want at Hempfield, we have to question how hard are they looking. We may need to help them a little bit because that's one of the things that even with diminishing resources, we've been able to maintain that robust curricular program here. We're really very proud of that, and we work really hard to maintain that. And then I mentioned those 4 C's. We want to make sure that as we move forward that we blend those 4 C's seamlessly and effectively as we go through and teach in the content areas. One of the ways that we can do that to fuse those 2 areas together is to look at instruction a little bit differently. One-to-one initiatives, whether you're putting a laptop or a tablet or an iPad or some other digital device in a kid's hands, it's not about the device. It's not about the tool. It's what we're going to have students use the tools to accomplish. That's what this needs to be about. What are the benefits of putting a digital tool into a student's hands? We've got some things up here that we think are really important. Number 1 is that equal access to learning tools is critical. Is one of the things that we know about our students is they don't all go home to the same kinds of homes where they have the same resourcing or opportunities. One of the ways we can level the playing field for all kids and to make sure that they have access and opportunities to learn to their fullest capacity is to try and put a digital tool in their hands and then teach them how to use it, not only in school but outside of school. Learning can be better differentiated. We use that term a lot. Basically what that means is responsive teaching, where our teachers do a really nice job of getting to know kids, and then based on what we know about their level of readiness and their interest and their learning styles and their preferences and their background and all of these things, then we need to try and tailor the learning experiences to capitalize and meet them where they are and take them as far as they can go. The digital tools that we can put in their hands nowadays greatly increase the ability of teachers to make those kinds of accommodations for kids so everybody gets what they need, at least to a much greater extent than maybe has been possible in the past. We see this technology, some people look at technology and say, wow, I wish it would go away. It's not going to happen, and we choose to look at it differently. The technology we can put in students' hands is going to give us opportunities to meet their needs in ways that could only be dreamed of 20 or 25 years ago. Shifting focus from memorization to those higher order thinking skills. With a device in their hand, the days where we need to memorize and carry a lot of information around in our head, we don't need to do that to the same extent we may have prior to the advent of these tools. So now, if they can find it, and I would challenge any of you, probably, you know what I'm talking about, 4 or 5 times a day easily, there's something I want to know. It's rare that I can't go out and find it in about a minute. If you can use keyword searches effectively, most of us as adults are learning those skills, we can find the information we need. It's a matter of what do we then do with it that becomes important. How do we use it ethically? How do we use it powerfully to either solve problems, substantiate our opinions, or to form opinions and develop perspective? All of these different things that constitute higher order critical thinking, those tools will allow us to try and drive at those things. Supporting and extending learning experiences beyond the classroom, that's one of the beautiful realities of these tools is when a kid walks out, they may have access to videos that their teachers have presented or different kinds of things outside the classroom that can support the work that they did during the school day in ways that they couldn't without these tools. And there's all different kinds of applications that we will be teaching our students about, and also our staff, because professional development is something we'll be doing a lot of to make sure that our teachers are able to leverage these resources in the hands of our kids to the fullest extent possible. So supporting and extending learning beyond the classroom, and the interactivity of these tools is beautiful. If you've not ever done this, if you've never seen an electronic textbook, where things may have been highlighted in the traditional textbooks that we're used to, boldface and italics, things like that, there's nothing that jumps off the page beyond that. Go into an electronic textbook, and those are now hyperlinks. They will click and they'll take you to other things. They may give it to you an oral discussion of that term. It may link you to another site or photographs or video. The interactivity of the devices themselves and the software and the applications we can use with them greatly enhance the ability to hook kids into the content. And to take them and try and link them then to places where their interests may take them, or where they see, wow, I want to learn more about this because this isn't an area of strength for me, but I'd like it to be. So interactivity in text and other learning resources, not only does it promote greater engagement, but put these tools in kids' hands, it can also help them become more independent, which is something that we want for all of our children. Real-time resources, the other nice thing, as soon as we buy a traditional textbook, it's already on the road to obsolescence. It's 4 or 5 years out, you start talking, I think, about world cultures books or history textbooks. History changes. Perspectives change. Cultures evolve. And so there are things that are beautiful about these electronic resources, is that when you do subscriptions and things, you're getting up-to-date information anytime that the kids go in. It's current. It's real time, and that's a great thing. One device can serve multiple subjects and grades. As a former middle school principal, one of the things I was always concerned about was kids lugging around 4 or 5 or 6 books in a backpack. And some of the books you're talking about, math books and social studies books are big. We're moving towards an age where we're going to be able to load the content on a single device. On an iPad, it's going to be better for kids in terms of keeping track of their things, also healthier for them, physically, in terms of being able to move their things around between home and school and the like. So there are many benefits that way. And then we're just so excited about the different kind of software and applications that can be loaded onto the iPads or the devices. In this case, we're going to be working with iPads, at least to start. And then capitalizing on the fact that students are using technology outside of school on a regular basis. One of the criticisms of schools has been, you need to keep up because we don't want our kids to have to power down when they come into school. Let's figure out how to use these tools, how to leverage them to enhance their learning, not discourage them from learning. And why now, in terms of this initiative? One of the things that was interesting that we've learned, a survey that was done by another district here in the intermediate unit, went out this past year and tried to get a handle on which districts are doing what. And we were curious where we fell, and as you can see, that blue area, we've got 39% of the 18 districts that responded that are already working into a one-to-one implementation. They all look a little bit different from district to district, but we don't want our students to fall behind. And we thought now is the time to jump in, given the fact that we've been working on the planning of this for the better part of 2 years. In fact, it's a priority enough for us. I mentioned the comprehensive plan. Our school board approved the next 3-year plan. If you're familiar with these, used to be called strategic planning. It's now comprehensive planning, and it's now a 3-year process. Our board approved our next 3-year plan in November, and just last week the state approved it finally. And you can see, and the reason I bring this up is we built this initiative into that plan. It's important enough that we wanted it in the plan, well articulated. It actually aligns with our first goal in the plan, which is that the district will implement consistent research-based assessment and instructional practices in all district classrooms. And again, by putting a device in all of our kids' hands, it does help us level the playing field, and it enriches the opportunities for kids across our entire school system. That's part of our goal. And that's strategy 3 speaks to that very thing in the comprehensive plan. Now, all of that said, it's not just about the technology, and this is where all the planning and research that's been done over the last couple of years is starting to come into play. We know of districts that have gone down the path of putting a device in kids' hands that may not have done some of the background work that we've chosen to do and other districts have chosen to do. It's more than about the device. It really is about the instructional practices that teachers are going to use and how curricular experiences change, knowing that we're going to have a device, a really powerful device in their hands that may allow us to leverage learning differently. Device types are important, but then you also have to take care of the infrastructure. You got to make sure that your buildings and your facilities and your wireless network, all of those things, you have the capacity to actually take on what eventually in 4 years, when we're fully implemented, you're going to have somewhere close to 7,000 students with a device in their hands. So we need to make sure we have the infrastructure in place to deal with that, because nothing's going to stifle learning more than our network crashing, because we haven't built it or built the capacity into it. We're really fortunate, and Mike Graham and Jeremy Paul, our Director of Technology and Assistant Director of Technology, are outstanding people in their field. We're so blessed to have them here. And they've done a great job of coordinating the learning of the rest of the organization around this initiative. Resource identification and vetting, warranties and repairs. How do you deal with those types of things? The acceptable use policy. System security, which we're hearing a lot about in the media. It's interesting, our own IU gets attacked on a regular basis. I don't know all the technical pieces, but you know, it's that system that provides us with our internet, with our network connection, you know, is something that seems to be under attack, along with a lot of other networks in this country right now. So being able to build that security and have backup things in place so that when our kids need to be able to use the devices, they're available to them for use is important. And these are things that we're working on and making sure that we've considered. Budgeting and financing, stakeholder communication. This is a leap-off point for us, but there are other things we're going to do through the remainder of the spring and right into next year and beyond as we grow into this initiative, into this implementation, not only internally, but with our families. Service and support of the devices, and also the implementation timeline and phasing. We've been very intentional with that. Just some things, it was interesting, we wanted to hear, because part of our research, in addition to doing some site visits, we were down to Ridley School District where they did a K-12 implementation. Last year we went down and learned some things there. We're going to be going to see Central York. We've had cancellations with some weather, so we're trying to reschedule some of those visits. But we've tried to go out and learn from others. We've also done some piloting internally. Last year we had some teachers at the elementary, middle, and high school levels that did pilot the use of some iPads with their students. And it was just interesting to see what the reactions were. We tried to get some feedback. And it was interesting, in the biology class at the high school, we had 19 and 21 students said they found it really helpful in completing schoolwork, that it was different for them. And almost 3/4 of them felt that it helped them master course content, and also thought it was a way for them to be more successful in school. I provided a list of the kinds of things that we can use those devices for. That's not an exhaustive list, but it'll give you an idea. And again, I'm not going to go into all of those. We're going to keep this moving along. But this will be available for you to take a look at later, if you so choose, on the website. We also had some things from the actual teacher, the insights that they were able to see, that love the fact that they picked up immediately, wow, student engagement feels and looks different with these devices in kids' hands. Student pacing. You know, you have the opportunity for student learning to be a little more self-directed because they can exercise a little more independence, which frees the teacher up to work with students who may really need some additional support when it's needed. You know, the days of everybody in the class having to do everything at the same time, the same way, these devices kind of break down those walls and allow us to engage in some different kinds of instructional practices. So there were a whole lot of benefits that she noticed in this case. All kinds of, I just included that because the apps that are out there and available, even things that are for free, that are really astounding. And one of the challenges that we're all going to face is There's lots of technology out there, but you have to ask yourself why you want it and how a kid's going to benefit if we load the apps onto their devices. You know, what are they going to use it for? It's not about the app, it's not about the tool, it's about how does that facilitate the learning and trying to get them to where we need them to be as they move through the system and eventually beyond it. The rollout plan, we are going to take a very measured approach to this. Our process will begin next year with the rollout of devices to all fourth graders. The next year, those fourth graders will carry their devices to fifth grade, and we will also equip the incoming fourth. Also seventh grade, and then you see a question mark up there where number 1 is, or first grade, and then the following year, first and second grade. One of the things we're still trying to tease out is how are we going to roll this out with the primary grades? We've seen some things, our site visits are pointing some things out. Do we want to start in first and roll them up to second and third? Do we want to start in third and back our way down? We're still trying to tease that out because primary students, there's some unique considerations that you have to take into account. So we're still trying to tease that piece out. But the bottom line is, 3 years in, and you'll notice that we've got a lot of grades that are covered there, but the biggie is the equipping of all the high school kids, 9 to 12. Because we have so many classes where we have kids in 10th grade and 11th grade blended, we have a lot of blended classes based on where they are in different sequences. We don't want to run into a situation where we equip 9th grade or we equip 10th grade, and then they're in a class with 10th, 11th, and 12th all blended together, and you've got 2 grades of kids that don't have devices and 1 grade that does. We don't want to create those kind of inequities. So that's why we've built this plan as we have. So in that fourth year, in 18, 19, we will be fully implemented across the system. And as we make those decisions about what it's going to look like for primary students, we'll get that information out. There's going to be a lot of feeding, and we're going to try and chunk information as we divvy it out to folks so that we don't overwhelm people. In terms of budget impact, and again, this goes back to the work that's been done by that tech task force and the work that's been done by our internal folks and the board, you can see that we try to be really strategic with the way we do budgeting and the way we manage district resources. And we're really pleased because and you'll notice in 15, 16, 16, 17, in those first 2 years, we think that by reassigning some funds within the district, we're not going to have to actually identify new money in order to get that piece going, to get into the initiative 2 years. That third year, you can see the costs start to go up a little bit because that's the year where the rest of the system gets brought online in a big way, with the exception of maybe 1 or 2 grades, kindergarten and whichever primary grade we decide, however that rollout works. But the interesting thing, and again, Mike and Jeremy have done a great job, what we're going to do is refresh our devices every 3 years. And what we'll do, we'll put those out, we'll get market value for those devices that get sold, and my understanding is they resell quite well. The iPads, and that was one of the reasons that they were chosen amongst several others, is that their resale value is quite high. So when we go to refresh the devices, that will help offset the cost of putting the new devices back in students' hands. So there's more in PowerPoint that was done for the board back in December that has a lot more detail about the mechanics of the proposal. We wanted to focus on the whys and how it benefits our kids tonight. If you want that information, we're also going to make sure that that's posted, and we'll remind people where that information is. And then next steps. And I think the thing that's most important here is, we've got professional development we're going to be doing with our grade 4 teachers through the remainder of the year and through the summer to make sure they're ready to rock and roll with our kids come the fall. Obtaining the hardware and continuing the preparation of the infrastructure. We've been working on that all the way along here the last several years. Refining and reviewing policies and guidelines to make sure that the implementation is safe, that it makes sense to parents and all the stakeholders, and that we can accomplish it efficiently and successfully. Communicating with families about the logistics of the rollout process and the developing experiences to support you. We're already in the process of developing some sessions that are going to run in April and May, not only in the evenings, but we're going to do some things during the day too, in the mornings and afternoons, to try and get those folks that are going to be most impacted immediately by the rollout up and running. And then we're going to develop some experiences so that parents feel capable of supporting their kids in the use of those devices at home. That's one of the things that we are going to work real hard to do, is to be the best partners with our families that we can be. Just like all school systems, I think some do it better than others, and I think this is an area where we want to really work and focus to be the best partners with our parents that we can be. So, moving beyond tonight, we're aiming to have a section of the website up and running by April, where we're going to use it as a repository, so that and we'll point you to it periodically, where you can go and find all the different information that will be posted about this initiative. Some early things, and we'll get these things up, and we'll get a notification out so you know where to find things like the board presentation that was done back in December, the spring pilot report. We did an update to the board back late in the spring last year as a result of the pilot projects that were done at the elementary, middle, and high school levels. We'll want you to see that as well if you'd like that. Tonight's presentation will be there. Information about the parent sessions that will be coming, we will post there as well. But in the meantime, if you have questions or suggestions or comments, what we would ask that you do, if you've not met her, where is Shannon? Shannon Zimmerman is our communications specialist for the district. She does a tremendous job for us. If you would send your questions or suggestions, comments to her, she will make sure that they get to those of us that can best address the questions or concerns. And so, there's a lot to cover, but I wanted to be respectful of the people's time that have the breakout sessions prepared for tonight. I know many of you are interested in learning more about math and some other things, and how to support your children with that, so I don't want to take their time. I will hang around down here for a little while. If you want to come and see me for any reason, please do so. But otherwise, I'm going to turn this back over to Drew to get us on to the next part of the evening. Thank you very much for your attention.